far as the fight, I feel like Bud could beat him easy.
How though?
You got a love for boxing.
Yes.
Love
Who gonna
boxing.
win the fight, man? That's
When you look at the upcoming matchup, there's a feeling in the air that Terence "Bud" Crawford really could surprise the world. A lot of people are already saying he'll handle Canelo Alvarez, and not just scrape by, but make it look easy. The question is, how exactly does that happen? Boxing lovers know how big this fight is, and when you ask who's going to win, the answer keeps coming back: Crawford. There's no hesitation. Commentators like Stephen A. Smith have said it with absolute confidence, declaring that Crawford has the adaptability, intelligence, and skill set to overcome a fighter as powerful and dominant as Canelo. Even while expressing respect for Alvarez, they insist that if any fighter alive can beat him, it's Crawford. Smith has been so sure that whenever asked, he doesn't stutter, doesn't stall, just says, Crawford. To him, the blueprint is already there. He reminds everyone that Floyd Mayweather, a smaller fighter, beat Canelo when he kept him on the outside and controlled the fight with movement and precision. That's the type of game plan Crawford can follow, only with his own unique twists, switching stances between southpaw and orthodox, using sharp footwork, and relying on his ability to adapt mid-fight. Analysts believe he has the speed advantage, the sharper ring IQ, and the type of patience it takes to outpoint Alvarez round after round. Of course, there are some who warn about the risks. Gervonta Davis's trainer, for instance, has suggested that if Crawford tries to trade too much with Alvarez, he'll run into problems. Canelo has always been the naturally bigger man, used to fighting at super middleweight, and has spent years refining his craft at that size. While Crawford may enter the ring weighing similar numbers, he hasn't carried that weight through fights the way Canelo has. Alvarez never shows up unprepared. He's consistent, disciplined, and durable, with one of the toughest chins in modern boxing. The only way Crawford succeeds in that line of thinking is if he fights smart from the outside, keeps his movement sharp, and never falls into long exchanges. One interesting angle analysts have looked at is the comparison between Errol Spence Jr. and Canelo Alvarez. Spence, who Crawford dismantled with stunning dominance, shares a lot of stylistic qualities with Canelo. Both are come-forward fighters. Both like to apply pressure. Both have that Mexican-influenced grit and body attack. And if Crawford could solve Spence so easily, outclassing him in every department, then the idea is that he might also have the formula for Canelo. The difference, of course, is Alvarez's durability and experience against much larger opponents. Where Spence was hurt in past fights and has endured accidents and injuries, Canelo has proven time and again that his chin is granite and his resilience unmatched. Still, fighters like Shocker Stevenson dismiss concerns about size altogether. In Stevenson's mind, boxing is never just about weight. It's about timing, angles, precision, and intelligence. Crawford has all of that in abundance. Stevenson argues that Bud has seen every style you can throw at him. He's found ways to win against different types of opponents, which means he'll know how to deal with Canelo too. If you take away the mystique of size and just focus on skill, Stevenson says Crawford can and will figure it out. Amir Khan, who knows both men personally, has also weighed in. Khan points out that Crawford is a master of subtlety, the small shots, the sneaky body work, the little things that break an opponent down over time. Against Errol Spence, those things were key. He slowed Spence down, frustrated him, and controlled every second of the fight. Khan says people underestimate how those little adjustments can dismantle even stronger and bigger fighters. He admits the fight will be close, but he emphasizes Crawford's craftiness as something Canelo will have to deal with all night long. Eddie Hearn at first was one of the skeptics. He thought the size gap would be too much for Crawford. But after spending time with Bud and seeing his confidence firsthand, Hearn admitted he'd changed his mind. What struck him was the mentality. Crawford truly believes he will win, and that kind of belief, Hearn says, is contagious. When you see it up close, you start to believe it too. He still acknowledges Canelo's advantages, but now he sees the fight as more of a 50-by-50. He even leans slightly toward Crawford, though he admits his heart wants Alvarez to win. Andy Lee, a former fighter himself, argues that people are exaggerating the size difference. Crawford, he says, isn't small anymore. He's filled out well. When Lee saw him in New York at another fight, he was impressed by how strong and solid Crawford looked physically. To Lee, this is more about skill than size, and when you put their skill sets side by side, Crawford is at least on equal footing. The fight, in his view, is destined to be one of the most skillful and memorable of the modern era. Of course, not everyone buys it. Some analysts argue that Crawford is stepping into totally uncharted waters. Yes, he dominated at welterweight. Yes, he showed brilliance against Spence. But Canelo has lived and thrived at 168 for years. He's fought bigger, stronger opponents, taken their best shots, and walked through them. Fighters like William Skull, even if not world-class, have carried sheer size and strength that would intimidate most welterweights. And Canelo has handled them. That's why skeptics wonder if Alvarez can eat punches from men at large. What happens when a smaller fighter like Crawford tries to hurt him? The fear is that Alvarez could walk him down like a hot knife through butter. For Crawford, that means flawless execution is required. He'll need to rely on every ounce of craft, every angle, every feint, every step. He cannot get lazy for a second. Alvarez's pressure, his ability to cut off the ring, and his heavy counterpunches are dangers that Crawford will have to anticipate. Conditioning will matter too. Carrying extra weight changes stamina, timing, and reflexes. If Crawford fades late, Canelo could capitalize. Virgil Ortiz Jr. expressed this worry clearly. He respects Crawford's skill, but doesn't believe the weight jump is realistic. To Ortiz, Crawford is still basically a welterweight, a man jumping up 3 divisions to take on one of the biggest names in the sport. That's a huge leap. Ortiz says even if Crawford sees something in Alvarez's style, the question is whether his body will let him execute it at the higher weight. Canelo, meanwhile, is comfortable at that size, has mastered it, and won't be surprised by the physicality. Ortiz leans toward Alvarez for that reason, though he admits that if Crawford pulls it off, he would have to be considered one of the greatest fighters of all time. And that's really the heart of this debate. If Crawford wins, he could end up with one of the greatest resumes ever built. Moving up 2 full divisions to take on Canelo and winning would put him in legendary company. The manner of the win would matter too. If he makes it look easy, if he dominates as he did against Spence, it would elevate him to a whole new level historically. But if Alvarez wins, people will downplay it. They'll say he just beat a smaller man that he was supposed to win. That's the unfair dynamic here. Crawford has everything to gain, Alvarez almost nothing. Some believe that's why this fight is such a fascinating spectacle. The narratives are already being written before the bell even rings. If Canelo wins, critics will complain he's avoiding bigger challenges like David Benavidez or a Bivol rematch. If he loses, his legacy takes a massive hit. For Crawford, a win would immortalize him. Even a competitive loss might earn respect, but victory would cement him as one of the sport's all-time greats. There's also the business side. This fight is part of a new experiment with Netflix streaming boxing, promoted by Dana White in partnership with Turki Al-Sheikh. It's unusual, given White's usual reluctance to deal with boxing promotion, but the sheer scale of this fight demanded a massive platform. September 13th is the date, and the hype is building like nothing else. For casual fans, it's a dream matchup. 2 of the biggest names in boxing colliding at a time when crossover fights and spectacle events dominate headlines. This one, though, is real, 2 legitimate elite fighters putting everything on the line. In the end, the debate boils down to the classic boxing equation of size versus skill. Canelo Alvarez, the seasoned super middleweight with unmatched durability, power, and experience at that weight. Terence Crawford, the pound-for-pound genius who adapts to everything, carries a flawless record and has made elite fighters look ordinary. It's a fight of eras, styles, and legacies. Nobody can say with certainty how it will play out, and that's exactly what makes it so exciting. For the fans, it's the kind of fight boxing rarely delivers, one that cuts through weight classes, politics, and promotional hurdles. Whether Crawford shocks the world or Alvarez proves too strong, this bout will be remembered for years as one of the sport's most significant events. Both men know the stakes, both men know the risks, and when that first bell rings on September 13th, the whole world will be watching.